Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. We're so glad that you're here this first Sunday in November. We left off last week with Elijah being taken to heaven and the power passing on to Elisha. So today we're going to look at in 2 Kings chapter 4, that was in chapter 2. We're looking at 2 Kings 4 and see one of the miracles that God was able to use Elisha to do to help someone who was near him. So we start in chapter 4, verse 1. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons be bondmen. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house, save a pot of oil. So boys and girls, this lady, she's a widow. Her husband had served the Lord, but they had to borrow some money. Somewhere along the way, the Bible doesn't tell us why they went into debt, but she owes a man money. Well, this man had come to her and said, You pay me now, or I'm taking your 2 sons away, and I'm going to sell them into slavery so I can get my money back. Well, this lady's distraught. She is upset, and rightfully so. She's lost her husband. Now this man is demanding that she give up her 2 sons. So she goes to Elisha, and she's like, Elisha, I need help. You know my husband. You know he was a good man, but we have this debt. And Elisha says, well, what is it I can do for you? What do you have in your house? Boys and girls, God wants to use what we have. We're going to bring that up a few times throughout this story. And she says, well, I have this pot of oil. He says, okay, go collect from all of your neighbors, from all of your friends. Collect as many pots and pans as you can, and not just a few. Okay, he says, don't just get a few, get a lot. He says, verse 3, Then he said, Go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. Okay, so he kind of gives her the hint, like, don't just get a few, get a bunch. He says, and then go home and take the oil, or close the doors, tells her to close the doors after she's gathered all the pots and pans, and take that bowl of oil, that pitcher of oil she has, and pour it into the other ones. Now, boys and girls, some of you know that I really like Coke, okay? If I have a can of Coke and I go to pour it into a pitcher, it's still the same amount of Coke, okay? It's still 12 ounces. It would be great if it multiplied, but it doesn't. I'm not going to be able to fill a pitcher and then another pitcher and then another pitcher and share it with my whole class. It's not going to happen. But boys and girls, this lady had faith and used what she had to do what she was told to do. She obeyed with what had been given to her. Well, her sons go, they ask neighbor after neighbor after neighbor, friend after friend. They bring all the pots and pans and bowls and pitchers and things that they could collect. They shut the door like the prophet had said, and the widow begins to pour. And she fills one. And they move it because it's full, and they bring another one, and she fills that one. And it's not empty. She's looking, it's not empty. And they bring another one, and they fill, and she just keeps pouring and pouring, and the boys take them away, and they bring empty ones, and she's like, okay, where's the next one? And the boys are like, we ran out. We've filled them all. That one container of oil that she had, boys and girls, God multiplied. God used it to fill many of them. Well, okay, now she has all this oil. What is she going to do with that oil? Well, Elisha had told her to sell that oil. Verse 6, And it came to pass when the vessels were full that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go, sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest. Boys and girls, she took what she had. God multiplied it. She obeyed with what she had, and God multiplied it. Not only did God help her pay off all of her debt, but her and her children were able to live off of the extra money that they made. God provided her far beyond what she even needed for that moment. He provided that need, and he provided beyond that. Boys and girls, God uses the talents that we have. We must be willing to use those talents to serve God. Sometimes we think it's just something small. It's not something big, but boys and girls, God wants us to take the talents we have and serve Him. The lady had oil, and God multiplied her oil. God met the lady's needs through the lady's simple obedience. Boys and girls, how hard is it to pour a pitcher? Okay, not too hard, but it did take faith to go ask neighbors for all of those pitchers, and it took faith for her to follow through on that obedience, although pouring it wouldn't have been that hard. She did what the prophet said with what she had, and God did the rest. We serve a powerful God who wants to use us and take care of us. What a testimony that was to her neighbors and friends and those she had borrowed all of those containers from, because she got to share how God had blessed her life. Boys and girls, God has given you different talents and abilities, different things that He wants you to use for Him. Boys and girls, I've seen the Lord use it throughout my life to show me God's given me a talent and I should use it for Him. Boys and girls, I love being with kids. Most of you know that. And it's something that the Lord has said, use that love for me. And I'm like, great. I get to do something I love all the time, about 6 days a week. Some weeks, like this past one, it's all 7. I get to use the talent God has given me. Boys and girls, God has given you things, whether it's money that you're putting in the offering plate, whether it's sharing paper at school with a friend who needs it, whether your friend needs their fruit break. That's right, your friend's hungry. Share what you have. God will use it. Now, you're probably not going to see your goldfish multiply when you share your snack, boys and girls, but God will use you if you let Him. Obey Him and serve Him faithfully.